time. Right, can we just... I declare the meeting of the City Council open. This meeting is being conducted remotely in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Act 2021 and the remote meetings protocol agreed by Cabinet, operating alongside the Council's standing orders to ensure that we continue to take democratic decisions in an open and transparent manner. Can I remind members that this meeting is being live streamed to the public? Please can you all switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you are not speaking to avoid unnecessary background noise and help with the audio and visual quality of the broadcast. The Council's standing orders and code of conduct will apply at all times. During this virtual meeting, in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. Can I also remind members to ensure that their chat function is switched on and to use the facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a political item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. For the benefits of everyone watching on live stream, can I invite members to cast their votes on a particular item? They will do so electronically using the voting system in the chat function. The votes will be automatically counted and are recorded on the system, but individual votes are not identified on the screen, and the chat room poll is not available on the live stream for public viewing. However, I will announce the number of votes cast for and against and any abstention before I declare the result. As well as being broadcast live, a recorded version of this remote meeting will be uploaded onto the Council's website for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request, and images and sound recordings may also be used for training purposes within the Council. I move on then to apologies. I have received apologies for absence from the following councillors: Councillor Linton, Jordan, Foulweather, Hughes and Councillor Lauren James. Are there any other apologies that need to be recorded? No. Are there any declarations of interest at this stage? No. Presiding members' announcements. I'd just like to mention one issue that has annoyed me a little bit. It's about members leaving meetings. And at the last meeting, quite a few members just got up and went. And I think it's rude. I think it's disrespectful. They wouldn't do that at work. They wouldn't do it in any other organisation that they would belong to. And I just think it needs to stop, whether it's teams, whether it's in full council or in meetings, in scrutiny or whatever. So I'd just like to make that point. I don't want to know where you're going, but I just think it needs to be raised that I have to leave the meeting properly. Okay? There was an issue that I was questioned on the short of the minutes on the leaders' question time. But we have a new clock now. It is difficult when I'm looking at that, the chat box. I'm also looking at members, and I'm also looking at my watch. So obviously we've got a good timekeeper now. And Liz will be taking the time to make sure that we're on time for that. So I move on now to the minutes. The minutes from the 18th of July are before us. Are there any point of accuracy? Councillor.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I have two matters of accuracy. The first one is on page 2 of the minutes, the online version, where it said Councillor Evans hoped that the minutes would be sent out in a timely manner and not when the agenda was circulated. I believe I also asked you, Presiding Member, to chase this up on our behalf. I'm not sure if you did, but yet again, the draft minutes from our meeting on the 18th of July didn't appear till the 20th of September. Would you like me?
On that point, I do apologise, and I will be chasing that up after the meeting.
Thank you, Presiding Member. And the second point of accuracy, again, is on page 17 of the online version, in relation to my question to the Leader of the Council about Welsh Government priorities. And the minutes say, whilst giving the Council £1.5 million for street signs alone, I can't recall if I said that they'd given the Council £600,000 or spent £32 million on signs in total, but either way the figure is inaccurate. Thank you.
Okay, that will be amended, okay? Thank you very much. I move the minutes as a true record. Is there a seconder? Thank you, Councillor. Would all councillors please cast their votes? All those in favour? All those against? Right, the approval of the minutes is duly carried. Item 3, appointments. Councillor Clark to introduce this item.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I would like to move all the appointments that are in front of you on page 26, and also 3 verbal appointments. Councillor Alex Pym onto Easwell and Somerton, Councillor Petroni onto Mice Eber, Councillor Marshall to be removed from there, and a Miss Jones Campbell onto Uscole Govin Isquaid. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I invite Councillor Reeks to second the report?
Happy to second that, Presiding Member.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? No. The council appointments are duly carried. I am pleased to welcome Superintendent Jason White to the meeting. Leader, can I invite you to say a few words before we open this up for any questions that members may have?
Thank you.
Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. I should let you speak first. Sorry about that.
Okay, good evening. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for the welcome. Just a couple of things just to bring up to speed over the last few months, and then I'm happy then to field any questions that you may have. So in terms of over the last months, particularly the summer months, we've seen some reductions in robberies throughout Newport, particularly since July. Indeed, reductions in both commercial and residential burglaries throughout the Newport area, and we've also seen reductions in violent crime. However, what we have seen, and this is pretty much consistent nationally, is that we've seen a significant increase in acquisitive crime, so particularly your volume crime, including shoplifting and vehicle crime, and that has been pretty much experienced across Newport over the last 3 to 4 months. We have put things in place. We have got some crime prevention plans. I think at the last meeting I was here, I've introduced a daily scrutiny on our prolific name offenders. And just as an example, the shoplifting positive outcome rates at the moment is 33%, which is significantly really good when you compare to the rest of the force and nationally. So the local processes that we put in place are clearly working in targeting those that harm our communities. I'm sure some of you have seen in the news recently in the South Wales Argus, some activity in the Maindy area and Stow Hill area where there was some organised crime groups that has been working in and around the Newport area. I was the strategic firearms commander involved in a significant operation 2.5 weeks ago where almost 200 police officers, half of which were firearms officers, were involved in committing 4 simultaneous drugs warrants to do with a conspiracy to supply Class A drugs, but also to deal with sexually exploited individuals. We work with partners during and following that to make sure that those individuals that we identified as being exploited as part of that organised crime group have the necessary support. Well, I am pleased to say that all of those individuals that were targeted were arrested on the night. They were all charged and currently on remand in prison, so a really, really good job. I dare say I'll be asked about Sue on bikes at some point tonight, so just in terms of the update, ironically, we've got an operation going tonight to target Sue on bikes. We'll be doing a great deal of that over the summer months, despite competing demands. And to date, when I looked at the statistics on Friday for this year to date, we've seized in Newport 88 bikes. So that's a combination of Suron bikes, e-bikes, but off-road bikes as well. Significantly higher than other parts of the force, purely because of the focus and grip that we've now got on that particular offence type. But largely in part to and we talked about this briefly, is the amount of community intelligence that's flowing in to us at the moment. So on the back of that, we've got some planned drugs warrants and some other enforceable activity that we're going to be progressing over the coming months as well. So again, some really good news. I won't talk about the 20 mile an hour because I'm sure that there'll be a few questions posed around that tonight. But can I just say, from a Gwent Police's standpoint, it is business as normal, whether it's 30 mile an hour or 20 mile an hour. We will look to enforce wherever there's significant threat, risk or harm that's been brought to us, either by casualty reduction statistics or indeed by the communities themselves. But there's a caveat. You know, this was only introduced to the legislation last week, so I think it's fair in saying that there's going to be a fair deal of discretion that's going to be used, I would suggest, in the next 6 to 12 months, mainly focusing, largely speaking, around education and raising awareness, not necessarily enforcement to begin with. I think there needs to be a balanced approach to something that is clearly just landed on our laps. So I think we need to be pragmatic, and I think we need to be sensible in the way that we deal with that. And that's it for me, so I'll open it up to any questions.
To say a few words.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Welcome, Superintendent. Nice to see you. Good to see you here today. I'd like to start on behalf of the City Council, thanking you for the policing effort that was made during the Pride events very recently. What a fantastic, what an outstanding example of true community policing. It was absolutely fantastic. And it was so positive to see officers and PCSOs engaging with people who were celebrating on the day as well. That was a wonderful day, I think, for Gwent Police, and officers should be commended for the efforts that they made during that day. It was fantastic. So thank you. Thank you for that. Police engagement with elected members can vary from time to time, and obviously that's based on the way that the force is organised as well. So an issue that we have raised from time to time in this chamber is the communication and correspondence that representatives from the west of the force area receive from the police in comparison with the east. Now, I understand there's been some moves that have taken place recently, and I'd just like to share with you that colleagues in the east area have been informed about this, have been well informed about this. There hasn't been any correspondence with colleagues from the west. So I wonder if you might, when you go back, you might address that for us to ensure that all colleagues are updated on those changes. That would be really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely right. There's been significant changes over the last few months where people have been moving posts. So when you talk the west of Newport, so Merv Priest, who was the sergeant, is now stepping up as the inspector. What I would say is that we've got a new chief inspector in Amanda Thomas, who's actually come from the west of the force, and she is very clear in her views around consistency. So consistency of engagement, not just to elected members, but obviously to the communities, which is clearly important too. So you will see here on in that consistent message and theme to all elected members going forward.
Thank you. That's very welcome, and I'm sure the colleagues will value that. At the start of when you were giving your update to us, you advised that whether speed limits were 20 or 30, the police would still carry on as they normally would. I wonder if your officers would work with us in Malpas on Almond Drive. It's a particular issue there outside a school, and whilst we can ask for our enforcement officers to demonstrate some activity there, we'd welcome PCSO presence within the wards, particularly around school times. But perhaps that's something we can pick up with our local officers outside of this meeting, with your guidance.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Superintendent, if somebody decided to come onto my land and, say, dig a hole in my back garden without permission, would this be a private issue, a council issue or a police issue? And perhaps you could also explain the additional powers you have in relation to travellers and how these can sometimes be difficult to enforce. Thank you.
Okay. But no help. So if somebody come and dug a hole in my land or anybody else's, I think it would be a case-by-case basis. Arguably, it can be deemed as criminal damage, but then also, until you know the circumstances of it, if I'm looking at it initially, I would suggest, is it planning from the council? Is it Welsh Water? Is there some other agency? I think just need a little bit more detail before I can make that determination as to are there any criminal offences, or should it rightly sit with the police or with another partner agency? Going on to your question around travellers, so back in 2022, we had, this is going to test my knowledge, Section 60 of the Criminal Justice and Public Order Act 2022. So that was introduced to provide with the police with some greater powers in relation to dealing with illegal encampments throughout the country. The criteria is quite simple, really. So the individual, for instance, has got to be over 18, has got to be on land without anybody's permission, have got to have been asked to leave, and also has got to have more than one vehicle. However, and this is the caveat, there's some additional criteria that also has to be met, and that is simply three things, or largely speaking three things. There has to be deemed significant damage to the land or to the area, to the property, significant disruption to the people or to activity in the area, and significant, I did write this down actually, significant distress. So the word significant is indeed significant. That's really key to that tipping point of whether or not it hits the criteria. And yes, we've had several instances where illegal travel encampments have turned up and set up in Newport. And we've had pockets of incidents of theft and damage and disorder. But in its totality, I would not deem that to be significant. And the Welsh the guidance from Welsh Government actually states in the policy that the determining factor of whether it's significant or not does actually sit with the police. And whilst I completely understand how frustrated some of the local communities are with some of the activity that's going on, when you actually look at that legislation in its entirety, for me the criteria is not met. That's not to say that we won't support and we won't address and deal with criminal activity and disorder as it happens, and indeed we have. But in terms of enforcing and putting into place that particular legislation, we have to hit that certain criteria.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jenkins.
Thank you. Hi, Superintendent. I'm being contacted by a lot of elderly residents in Pill. What more can be done to tackle the antisocial behaviour, including street drinking and aggressive begging at the back of Asda leading on to Tredegar Street in Pill?
Thank you. So ASB has increased in Pill, but it, largely speaking, it's increased across the city. What I would say is that there are dedicated patrols in and around that area. I know because we have quite a few prolific shoplifters that hang around and congregate near to Pill. Myself, only recently as Wednesday last week, believe it or not, I was on patrol and was speaking to 3 or 4 individuals who were just by the telephone kiosk by the side of Asda, and they were moved on. So we have powers. So we've got, PSPO in place, and we can have targeted, dedicated patrols as well. But again, it's making sure that we have that good links from the community. So if they're feeding in to our CSOs and our police officers who are on patrol on Commercial Road and in that area, then absolutely we can put some more resources at that time. Do we know when it's happening, or is it throughout the course of the day?
It's daily, it's day and night. It's just constant. Some days it's a lot worse, but it's pretty much the same every day.
And do we know if people are calling that into the police then?
Yeah, including myself, and it will get patrolled, but they stop for 5 minutes and then they just keep coming back.
Okay. What I will do then, just to reassure you, when I go back tonight, I'll make sure that contact is made from you by the new sergeant down there, Chris Johnson, so we can discuss your concerns and then put things in place.
Thank you.
Councillor Howells.
Thank you. Superintendent, you may be aware of the issues that we're currently having in our ward at Ponfing shops. I'm aware from an update from the inspector today that significant police vehicles were damaged over the last couple of days, and the issues there have significantly heightened. And I'd be grateful for an update on how you intend to take issues forward. The inspector's been really proactive there, I might add. We've had a number of dispersal orders which have helped on a short-term basis, but as ward councillors we're now being pushed for a long-term remedy to the solutions there.
Yeah, thank you. So it's not just the last couple of days that there's been damage caused to police vehicles. It's gone on for the last few months, and I'm not going to tolerate that. So 3 weeks ago, I commissioned some analytical work to look at where these damages are taking place, and then also looking at intelligence to try and identify the suspects, trawling CCTV, speaking to the communities, engaging with the communities. Largely speaking, the individuals are on bikes, which I know we all know that there certainly was a significant issue in your area which we're looking to address. But I am confident that we are going to be putting things in place to identify those individuals. I hope you'll see that there's been some continuation of some patrols, dedicated patrols in those areas to provide reassurance to yourselves, but also the community as well. And as I said, we are doing these operations which, largely speaking, are addressing and targeting the people who are causing these issues in the first place, which, from the update I said at the start, the 88 bikes, a lot of that is the east side of the water, because that's principally where the main issues are. And I think the last operation before tonight, we seized 7 bikes, largely speaking within the Lisweri, Pontvane sort of area. So absolutely, it's something that we're really passionate about, and we'll carry on doing what we're doing.
Can I just ask, when you seize the bikes, you destroy them, or? So
we've out of those, largely speaking, the vast majority we're going to crush. Right. So look forward in the next coming weeks. We're going to put some really high-profile media out there to show us crushing these e-bikes and these Suron bikes. But what I'm also in early conversations with our force planning and operational support is some of these bikes are brand new, and they're probably £4,000 or £5,000 each. What I would really like to do is to actually use them as part of a police fleet, put police livery and stuff, and then get a dedicated team of Suron police officers to then start targeting these people. And what better to actually use the bikes that we seized from those people in the first place against them. So the Metropolitan Police are currently doing it, so we're going to be speaking to them to look at how is that managed in terms of what tactics they use, the training, what policies are in place. But I'm really passionate about trying to get something introduced in Gwen.
Okay. Councillor Reeks.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Good evening, Superintendent. Just picking up on what you were saying earlier about the increase in inquisitive crime across Newport. We had a ward meeting in Rochester North back in early September that Sergeant Paul Turner attended, and again, if you can pass on my thanks to him for that. His presence was greatly appreciated there. Obviously, the incidents of inquisitive crime rising in the area were brought up there, and some of the residents actually questioned whether this was due to the council switching off the lights completely during the night. Are you able to say whether there's any correlation or connection between this increase in crime and the street lights being switched off at night? Thank you.
I can't comment on that, because I think when you look at vehicle crime and even shoplifting, so shoplifting takes place primarily through the daytime hours. and we've had significant increases within that particular acquisitive crime type. And then conversely, when you talk about nighttime offences, commercial and residential burglaries, they've actually gone down. So I wouldn't necessarily say that's attributed to street lighting, albeit, you know, there's that perception of safety. I absolutely understand that, but no, I can't honestly say that's linked to that.
Councillor Aliwami.
Yes, thank you, Presiding Member. Superintendent, I was interested in your reference to the 20 mile per hour and your intention, you know, in terms of enforcement to be, you know, more in the way of education initially and all that. And I would wish to support that. After about, 9 days of it now, you know, I find people are sort of in two camps. I certainly see plenty of people who are following that, you know, actually sort of keeping the speed to around 20, which is really what the intention was. But I notice also others who sort of are not doing any kind of compliance, and certainly have increased with the less compliance, if you like, since they learned about the huge petition that's been submitted to the Welsh Government. Obviously, that's their right, and we await the debate of that petition. But can I just ask, because I don't believe that the signage is complete in the areas where we are supposed to observe the limit, so it only applies to the 30 mile per hour, you know, previously 30 mile an hour areas. Can we confirm that it's only applied to that? So if it's 40 or 50, well, obviously, those are the limits correct as we speak. And the other thing is, yes, if we don't see the signs and it is 30 mile an hour, do we have to go for 20 unless they're exempt roads? Now, someone said to me, the exempt roads, maybe you know a few in your own sort of authority, but how do you know about the others in, say, in the adjoining authorities? So I think, you know, the signage is going to be an important one, really, in terms of enforcement all over, sort of, not just in your own local authority area, but also in the adjoining one. So I wonder what, you know, whether you wish to care to comment on that.
I think it's the responsible Welsh Government signage, I thought, but then that's up to you.
Yeah, there's clearly confusion, hence the stance that Gwent Police are going to be taking in the first instance, and many other forces throughout Wales, is around raising that awareness. So, largely speaking, the 30 mile an hour roads, local roads that you did see, are now 20 mile an hour. If you remember back in the day when I passed my test with the highway code, the street lamps 200 yards apart, that would deem it to be a restricted road, and therefore ordinarily what would have been a 30 mile an hour speed limit, but that now drops to a 200. So any time that you see street lighting, largely speaking close together, that would deem it to be a restricted road and therefore subject to 20 mile an hour speed limit unless you see signage that would suggest otherwise. Does that make sense? Yeah,
but I mean, as an enforcing authority, are you pressing for eventually having signage on, you know, everywhere where we want the 20 mile per hour? Is that likely to happen?
Again, that will be something for the highway agency to address, not necessarily Gwent Police.
Okay, but you're going to follow this sort of rough rule, isn't it, about the about sort of, you know, the street lamps for enforcing eventually?
Councillor Army, I think you've had the answer to your questions, to be perfectly honest. Okay, and I think The superintendent obviously gave you those answers. Can we move on now to Councillor Druitt?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Superintendent, bonfire night's coming up. What assurances can you give about policing, especially on Ridgeway, where large numbers of people gather to celebrate over that weekend?
Thank you. I forgot to mention that in my opening address, that we have got bonfire night and Halloween as largely, really significantly busy periods of the year for us. So our approach really this year is like no other really. We look at where the demand has been over subsequent years. We put embargoes in place so people can't take leave and time off work. So we maximise our resources. We work alongside the fire service so that we have access to their stats as well in terms of fires. So it's very much intelligence-led, largely run and led by our neighbour policing teams. So certainly in the Ridgeway, it'll be the local policing team will be out being visible, engaging early with the community in the early evening, but also you'll have our response officers then who will be responding to emergency calls. So please be assured, not just in Ridgeway, but throughout Newport, that there will be significant police presence again this year.
A lot of these will be out on Halloween without masks, I'm sure. Right, let's move on. Councillor Hurain. I think there's a button. There's a button on the side. You've got to push first.
Okay, done. Thank you. Good evening, Superintendent. Could I commend to you 3 of your PSCOs who've done outstanding work in St Julian's over the summer, which seems to have resulted in some significant success for the force. And if I could just give you their first names and you could pass on my thanks. Annabelle, Caitlin and Claire. Thank you very much, Superintendent.
Right, thank you. Councillor Morris.
Superintendent, we really appreciate your involvement in the problems we have in Liswerry. But the problem with the bikes is a small part of the problem. It's what those bikes are being used for. We all know what they're being used to ferry around the city, and we seem to have more than our share of problems. We've got several neighbours, one in particular has an awful lot of CCTV. We've offered it many times to the police and I don't think it's been taken up as yet. If somebody will contact us, we will give you the contact. They have the film there and we'd love you to look at it.
Is it okay if I make contact outside of this to get those details? You're absolutely right. You know, a lot of the activity with the bikes that we just described in and around the Liswerry Pont Vane area is linked to Class A drug supply. What I can say is that we've had 4 individuals who are currently serving prison sentences at the moment for supply of Class A drugs, either living within that area or certainly partaking in those activities in the area. So there is a lot of work going on, but clearly, by the sound of it, there's opportunities that we're not grasping as well. So, if you don't mind, I'll speak to you outside of this and get those details. Thank you.
Councillor Petroni.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I want to say a testament to you and your officers for fighting crime across the city and protecting law-abiding citizens. You mentioned about a rise in inquisitive crime. I wonder what the intelligence is telling you around the nationwide picture. Is it anything to do with drastic cuts in public services and a huge surge of cost of living crisis?
It's an interesting one. So we have a lot of prolific offenders within Newport, and it seems to be a very cyclic thing that goes on. So we arrest. So one individual last week was arrested and charged with 6 offences. So he now is being sentenced for 6 weeks. Within that time, he'll be released. and then activity starts again. So the vast majority of the acquisitive crime, particularly around shoplifting and associated offences such as vehicle crime, are largely speaking prolific offenders that we know about. We need to be better, so we need to be much more on the front foot, so we need to be engaging with probation far more earlier, so we know when they're coming out, so we put things in place to make sure that early interventions are taking place, not necessarily by the police but by partner agencies, to stop that cyclic effect. I got no doubt that with the cost of living crisis hasn't helped matters in the current climate. But from my experience as the commander in Newport, a lot of people who are committing our offences are known to us, and they've been known to us for a while, and it's that cycle. So for me, and the sort of challenge that I put to all the other partners is that we need to break that challenge, so we need to be working with criminal justice far more effectively in putting measures in place to stop that cycle occurring time and time again. So.
Right, thank you. Councillor Hussain.
Superintendent, I'd just like to say I've just come back off police surgery with the PCSOs in Victoria Ward, and most of the residents there are from Lanwin Street, and the complaints are about the Box Hotel. Thank you very much, firstly, for the update, and I will pass on the information on to the residents. But plainly speaking, they actually want the hotel to be closed down. I don't know if that's a possibility with, things that have been going on recently. The other thing is Cyril Street. We've had so many complaints, and Inspector Roland Giles has actually been updating us constantly about a particular property that's been used for cuckooing. But each time they visited, everything seemed to be in order. I don't know if what's been happening, if there is any update on that, but I'd also like to say that the PCSOs in Victoria Ward and Inspector Giles keeps us updated constantly about everything going on, so I'd like to pass on my thanks as well to those. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you, and thanks for the kind comments around Inspector Giles and the CSOs. The Box Hotel, it's caused significant issues for the local community, which we're aware of. So the enforcement element of it 2.5 weeks ago was just the first part. What Rowley and his team are doing at the moment is working with partners to look at effective measures around closures, to have that permanency and that reassurance to the community to stop this happening time and time again. So I'll ask Rowley to speak to you outside of this to update you around Cyril Street, but I'll also ask him to then update you around the work that's going on around the Box Hotel, but also other problematic premises that may exist in your area as well. I'm really keen on getting closure notices on those premises that really cause significant issue and to those communities. So yes, I'll get to make contact with you.
Right, I have no further members want to ask questions, so can I just thank you, Superintendent, for your responses tonight, and good thanks as well to all your officers as well for all the good work they do.
Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Right, we move on now to item 5, the replacement local development plan. The leader to present this report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The first report on our agenda today relates to the Replacement Local Development Plan Preferred Strategy and seeks Council approval to endorse the Preferred Strategy and commence the formal community consultation in October. This recommendation is in line with the timeline included in the revised delivery agreement that has previously been approved by Council and confirmed by the Welsh Government in January 2023. Having an up-to-date and fit-for-purpose local development plan is not only important to achieving our collective aspirations for seeing the city grow and prosper up until 2036, but is also a statutory requirement. The new plan will enable us to direct new development into suitable locations, whilst protecting those areas and important assets which make our city unique. The preferred strategy is a formal stage in the development of a new local development plan, and the purpose of the preferred strategy is to outline our suggested approach to new development, future growth and conservation. A public consultation has already taken place in respect of the level of growth that we want to achieve and how that growth should be accommodated. This is referred to as the Growth and Spatial Options Consultation, and the responses received have been used to inform the proposed strategy. Now, Presiding Member, when considering growth, it is important to remember that Newport is identified as a national growth area in Future Wales, the National Plan 2040. This is the top tier of the development plan for planning purposes, and all local level plans, including our local development plan, need to be in accordance with the national plan. It was pleasing to see that 68 consultation responses were received from a wide array of stakeholders. There was a general acceptance that Newport needs to grow sustainably, including the identification of new housing and employment land. These consultation responses and our proposed responses were considered by Cabinet on the 13th of September, and the recommendations were approved. Alongside the consultation responses received, a considerable amount of background evidence and reports are used to inform the preferred strategy. In order to formally progress a preferred strategy, further formal consultation is required, and the regulations state that this should be for a minimum of 6 weeks. You will note that our proposed consultation will begin in October and will run for 8 weeks. The consultation plan includes various methods of engagement and exercises to ensure that we reach as wide an audience as possible. The Place and Corporate Scrutiny Committee considered the preferred strategy and our proposal to commence a formal consultation at their meeting on the 11th of September. I'm advised that there was a positive discussion on this matter, and the committee were content to endorse the public consultation exercise. I welcome the request from committee members that we carefully consider how we promote and raise awareness of the consultation. And officers will ensure that we take on board Scrutiny Committee's suggestions where appropriate. Turning to the preferred strategy itself, we're setting a target of facilitating the development of 9,570 new homes and the creation of 8,640 new jobs. With this level of growth, we're confident that we can achieve our agreed vision of making Newport a destination where people want to live, work and visit. In order to deliver this growth, we are proposing a hybrid spatial strategy that will focus on previously developed land, but also acknowledges that some greenfield land within and adjoining settlements will be required, as well as some smaller development within villages. Details of proposed key sites of 300 plus dwellings are outlined in the strategy. Now, Presiding Member, it is important to remember that this is a strategy for consultation, and we welcome the views and the opinions of all stakeholders. All responses will be considered in detail and used to inform the deposit plan, which I will bring back to Council around this time next year. So, Presiding Member, the Council is asked to endorse the preferred strategy consultation paper and to give formal approval to commence consultations within our communities and stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Is there a seconder? Councillor James. Are there any comments on the proposal? Councillor Evans?
Thank you, Presiding Member, and of course we'll be supporting this. Just a brief comment. I appreciate it's only going out for consultation, but I have been informed there are 2 highly controversial applications in the Altarine ward to build on our precious green belt land, and I sincerely hope this will be considered a last resort, and we have some reassurances that we will try and maintain as much greenbelt land as possible. And could you also ensure that members get information on ward submissions rather than having to wade through, I think there's several hundred pages of documents? Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. I'm sure you will be mentioning those in the consultation anyway, I'm sure. Councillor Deb Davis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I support the proposal that the Council commences a formal community consultation. As the 2021 census clearly demonstrated, we have seen an increase in population and this will continue to grow. It's recognised that Newport is a maturing city which has become an attractive place in which to settle. We desperately need more housing and along with that, local opportunities for employment that supports this and ensures that we have a sustainable, thriving economy. I very much welcome residents' comments as this will ensure our city's future is shaped by their voices and their ambitions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Is there any other member? Right, all those in favour? Sorry, Leader, sorry to come back, sorry. Sorry, you didn't, I didn't hear you say you wanted to speak later.
I wasn't asked, but that's no problem. That's no problem. Just very briefly, as Cabinet Member responsible for planning, I'm happy to endorse this report and recommendations. Consultation is at the heart of the planning system, and we are all familiar with the consultations which happen on a daily basis in connection with planning applications. The process of developing and adopting a new local development plan, an LDP, is no different, and there are clear regulations on how we must do this. It is absolutely vital that we gather people's views and that we consider what they have to say. It was great to see that we had nearly 70 responses to the growth options consultation from a wide variety of bodies representing different sections of the community. And quite rightly, alongside a considerable evidence base comprising background documents and reports, these responses have shaped the preferred strategy which has been presented to us today. The procedures and processes associated with the development of a new plan are heavily regulated, and as it's been mentioned, whilst we're only required to consult for a period of 6 weeks, it needs to be emphasised that we're proposing to extend to 8 weeks and use a variety of methods to maximise engagement. These will include a blend of online and in-person events, which will give everyone who is interested in the future growth of the city the opportunity to speak to officers and ask questions. And I was at the scrutiny committee mentioned, and I also welcomed the positive feedback from everyone. And I'm confident that we will take on board the suggestions put forward once the formal consultation period has commenced. And as the leader has noted, it is important to remember that Newport is identified as a national growth area in national planning policy. We know Newport is growing. This was evident in the 2021 census data. But it is important that we have the right land use development plan in place to meet the needs of our current and our future residents. We need to ensure that we provide enough land for housing to enable people to have access to good quality housing and enough land for employment to support new and growing businesses, which will bring jobs to our residents. We consider that the preferred strategy gives us a level of growth which is both realistic and achievable. It is important that we balance the impact of new development has on communities, resources and the environment. As I've already mentioned, a considerable amount of work has gone into formulating this in the preferred strategy, for which I would like to thank the officers. The next stage will be to provide the final call candidate sites that want to be included into the deposit plan. I'm confident that the proposed growth and strategy we're taking forward is both suitably ambitious, but also, importantly, deliverable. Not everyone would agree with what is contained within the preferred strategy, but that is the point of the consultation, and we need to hear what people have to say. On that role, I look to support this. Many thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor James. Right. Can I ask members now, all those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? The replacement local development plan report is duly carried. Right, move on to the next item now, the item 6, the Climate Change Annual Report. The leader to present the report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The next report to be presented at today's Council meeting is the Climate Change Plan Annual Report for 2022-23. The purpose of this report is to provide our organisational emissions for 2022-23 and also to provide an update on the projects that have been supporting our decarbonisation efforts. This is the first full annual report of the Climate Change Plan, which was signed off in March 2022. The Climate Change Plan sets out how we will reach net zero as an organisation by 2023 in line with our commitments. Turning to the report itself, our overall carbon emissions are down, excluding procurement, and our operational emissions have reduced by 7.69% since 2021-22. A long overdue change in how we're required to report procurement emissions has led to an up-to-date figure which is much lower than previously reported. As a response to changes in the reporting guidance, we've initiated engagement with our supply chain to start to build more detailed figures specific to Newport. With a citywide local area energy plan now in place, actions in Year 2 of our Climate Change Plan have a much tighter focus on organisational emissions. The majority of actions for Year 2 of the plan have in-year completion dates. This will allow us to better manage performance. An important detail to note is the recommendation for the separation of action plans from the main organisational plan. Action plans will be publicly available, but separating them from the body of the plan itself will mean that the plan doesn't need to be amended and republished on an annual basis in its entirety. Now, Presiding Member, climate change projects of particular note in the past year include the rollout of carbon literacy training to members and senior managers, and the achievement of bronze accreditation status. And I'd like to say a huge thank you to everybody who's engaged in that really important and informative training. Thank you, everyone, for doing that. Other projects also include the establishment of the Climate Change Staff Network, which now has over 30 members who meet monthly. The installation of further solar panels, installation of air source heat pumps, the achievement of Tree City of the World status in recognition of our management of our tree stocks, completion of the Devon Place Bridge to support active travel across the city, and changes to procurement processes to support decarbonisation through the larger purchases we make. Soon every procurement over £75,000 will need endorsement from our climate change team. In the coming year, the main focus for the Climate Change Plan will be the ongoing decarbonisation of heating our buildings, removing the need for fossil fuel use wherever possible, delivery of widespread EV charging, and evaluating the decarbonisation potential of the land that we own, and the development of internal and external communication plans to ensure that we are communicating with and engaging staff and the general public on this issue. So, Presiding Member, I ask that the Council approve this report for publication. Thank you.
There is second to the report. Councillor Forsey, do you want to speak now or later? Yep. So there's any confusion.
Thank you very much, Presiding Member. This is a comprehensive report covering the climate change actions undertaken in the past year. We see in this report progress on decarbonising our buildings and our fleet. We've been awarded bronze carbon literacy accreditation status. Solar panels have been added to 39 of Newport City Council buildings. 8 schools have had their lights upgraded to LED lighting. We have a policy to plant at least 2 trees for every tree cut down, and Newport City has been awarded Tree City status, as the leader acknowledged just now. It is vital that we continue all of this work. Throughout this year, we have seen catastrophic flooding, devastating wildfires, hugely damaging storms home and abroad. July 2023 was the hottest month ever recorded. The UN climate change report says we should expect heat waves to become more common. All of these climate change effects are killing people from Canada to Libya, from India to Argentina. Lives are in danger and food production is severely impacted. So who could possibly think that now is the right time to row back on our climate change commitments? Who could possibly think that it's okay to continue producing emissions from dirty diesel cars, increasing air pollution and carbon emissions? Who could possibly think that it's okay to continue producing rubbish without recycling as efficiently as possible? Who could possibly think that it's okay to continue polluting our rivers, killing the fish and our river ecosystems? Who would do that? The Conservatives. I don't know how it's possible, but every iteration of this Conservative government seems even worse than the previous one. Remember Keep 1.5 alive? A commitment to restrict climate change to 1.5 degree increase. I think the Conservative government has just thrown that commitment under the bus. Just when you think it can't get any worse, the Conservative government makes it worse.
Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Newport City Council has a commitment to reach net zero by 2030 and for the city to achieve this by 2050. As we all know, the climate emergency is having a disastrous impact on all of us. We're already seeing weather changes, floods and heat waves. What we have to adapt to regarding climate change has to be done quickly to improve our lives and, importantly, for future generations. That's our children and our grandchildren. This is a moral imperative, and I'm proud that as a member of this council, we are taking our responsibilities seriously. We have a plan that is already actioning and achieving results. This is against a national background where we see a Prime Minister who recently has abdicated on his responsibility without a democratic mandate whilst Parliament has been in recess to determine that we move our use of electric cars is going to be delayed for 5 further years, underpinned by a series of untruths in regard to legislative proposals that he's purported to be in place. Our plan, however, is based on realism and honesty to achieve our objectives of net zero. Having been in place for a year, we can celebrate our achievements, which are as follows. We are achieving carbon emissions reduction by 29%, and we've seen improvement on LED lights, we've seen improvement on building energy efficiency, and we've developed a fleet of electric vehicles. And we have the largest number of roof-maintained solar panels on any building in the whole of Wales. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Davis. Councillor Corton. No, there's a button.
Okay. I'm really proud that we as a council and as a city remain committed to our climate change plan, commitments that we put in our manifesto that we campaigned on last year, and things that I consider at the core of our beliefs. Tackling climate change is no easy feat, and it does often feel that as individuals and smaller organisations on a worldwide scale, that the actions that we carry out are just a drop in the ocean when it comes to looking at the global climate picture. But all of those drops in the ocean and all of those small actions add up. People across the world are already facing the impact of the climate crisis, and it can't be underestimated just how much of the actions that we as a city are taking will make life better, not only for those living in Newport, but for those not born yet and for people all across the world. All these things that we find a bit irritating while we get used to them, like driving a bit slower, recycling a bit more, or accepting that our grass areas won't always look like the centre court at Wimbledon so as to create space for biodiversity. All of these things add up, and they sit with the bigger projects to make a difference. So while the UK government might be too cowardly to show proper climate leadership and play its part properly in this challenge and able to look beyond the election box to consider the global impact of their delays, I stand here proudly as a Newport councillor, proud to live in a greener, cleaner city. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Corton. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. I can remember the day when me and the presiding member looked forward to the day we could breathe fresh air in here. We were the only two non-smokers on the council. And just trying to convince people that we needed clean air took some doing. It sounds a joke these days. When they wanted a fag, we had to go out. That was the attitude towards clean air. Over the years, we've all come around and we're all starting to realise we may be too late. And it's not the Tories, it's not Labour, it's not any one political party that has a monopoly on this, because we all breathe the same air and we're all affected by the measures. Quite rightly, this council should be proud of what we're doing, that we're leading the charge, quite rightly. But take everybody along with you, not throw barriers up and point fingers. Don't take your eye off this 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. You come across Newport now, you're stuck in second gear. And if you think that's not having an effect on the atmosphere, your engine is revving far, far more and throwing out far, far more pollutants out of the back. Come along the M4. Until we get those Bringlass tunnels sorted, have a look at the cloud. Have a look at the cloud that appears over St Julian's, down the Cullian pitch, and out towards Alterine on the other side, where the traffic flows up. We're all in this together, and it's up to each and every one of us to shout and point at the right places to work together as a team to clear this up. Not for us, we're past it. Our grandkids, we're at a critical stage. It may be too late.
Councillor Evans.
Yeah, thank you, Presiding Member. First of all, 20 mile an hour is going to do nothing to improve pollution levels, so Welsh Government has got no evidence at all. It's going to help, it's going to hinder it. Councillor Fozzie seems to have a very selective memory because she's taught us about the UK Government and polluting the rivers. Well, you know, Welsh Government have got responsibility for sewage. Welsh Government is the only part of the UK which doesn't even have an environmental board. So
Councillor Evans, can you address it to me rather than Councillor Fozzie?
Sorry. We're the only part of the country which doesn't even have an environmental board. So what does that say about your record? We're adopting a more pragmatic approach, proportionate and realistic. We're taking people with us to ease the burdens on hard-working people, and particularly those on low incomes who can't, we can't all afford to go and buy electric cars. And incidentally, we can do this because over the last decade we've over-delivered on our targets. We are the fastest reduction in emissions in the G7, down almost 50% compared to 1990. We will still keep on track net zero by 2050, and our targets are still more ambitious than other countries. To give you an example, our 2030 nationally determined contribution delivers 68% reduction by 2030, compared to 1990 levels, which is more than the US at 40%, and indeed the EU at 55%. So, we talk about, and I actually agree with Councillor Morris on a lot of the points he made, we need to work together on this. We are not diluting our targets, we're just ensuring it's more reasonable, practical for people to come with us. And we don't want to have too many sticks, Presiding Member. We need a few carrots to take us on our way.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Oakley.
Presiding Member, I don't want to debate the pros and cons of the Welsh Government or any other government. My aim for standing this evening is to speak about the recent statement by the Cabinet Member for this portfolio. We've requested in the Bishton and Langstone ward due to the consequences of the M4 and the decision that was made. We actually become gridlock city on Thursday, Friday and Saturday. And we need action to be taken. I'm told that there's no evidence of the extra added fumes. There's no evidence of a sandwich of pollution. But you speak to the people who live in the ward, like myself and my colleague, and the rest of the residents. When we have the A48 rammed, when we have the Mega Road rammed, when we have the M4 on standstill, there's only one way the idling pollution is going to go. That's up in the air and down on our residents. I understand that you need evidence, but you're saying you can't give us the air quality monitoring system because you haven't got the evidence. Well, we're telling you the evidence is there, and with the air quality monitoring system, we would be able to demonstrate that we have a severe problem in this area. And I ask you to reconsider. So I'm not shaking your head. I'm asking you to reconsider. We should be working together for the benefit of the city of Newport and delivering the best air quality we can. So, again, I will write to you, and I will keep on, and I will do everything I can to ensure that the residents of Bishton and Langstone and Newport can breathe properly, not just one day of the year, but every day of the year. Thank you.
Councillor Hurahan.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer. Councillor Forsey's spoken from the heart this evening, obviously, but she didn't give out a bit of good news that we received the other week. We went along to the clean air zone for Chepstow Road and Cullinan Road, and the indication we had from the officer there that it is vastly improved and it soon become out of a, I don't know the exact phrase, but basically it will be deregulated and it will be seen as a clean air zone now, and this is largely part of our policy of supporting electric vehicles and particularly electric cleaning vehicles and electric buses. On a certainly a very different subject, I was musing when I noted that the Tory government is going to abandon HS2 and it's not going to go north of Birmingham. Now, if you remember, Presiding Officer, we were told that there would be no cash coming to Wales under the Barnett formula because the Crewe junction would benefit North Wales. Well, if this is not to go north of Birmingham, there should be many millions of pounds coming to Wales to help with our transport infrastructure. And I'm hoping to see a great deal more railway lines and bus routes, etc., come into Wales as on the back of this mindless Tory policy of cutting HS2 off at Birmingham and just effectively making it a tram line between London, outer London that is, and Birmingham. Thank you, Mr. Presiding Officer.
I've got no one else to speak. Leader, do you want to sum up, please?
Thank you, Presiding Member. Thank you, colleagues, for your contribution. I'm not sure how we ended up on that journey today, but thank you all for your contribution. If I could just refocus everyone's attention, if I may, Presiding Member. This report really sets out some great achievements on the part of the authority, and it's important, I think, for all of us as elected members to recognise the commitment that officers have made in terms of driving this forward. It's a huge amount of work, and it's happened in a relatively short space of time. And, you know, as Newportonians, we should be really proud of this and really pleased with the efforts that have been made. The facts remain, I'm afraid, with regard to other external factors that are beyond our control. We are in a situation where an unelected Prime Minister is going back on a manifesto commitment, and this will impact on the citizens of this country. And it's not us, here and now, This is about our children and our grandchildren in the future too. And so it is not surprising that there is this level of feeling against the recent announcements made by the UK government. It's not surprising at all. However, here in Newport, we should focus our efforts on the recognition that is deserved by our officers for the measures they have taken and the work that they have done to bring us to this point. And I look forward to welcoming the update next year as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. Would all councillors please cast their votes? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Against, sorry, did you? Against, right, okay. One against. Any abstentions? I'm not seeing any in the chat box, but I think there's some problems with the chat boxes. I can't see the votes. Oh, right, it's coming up now. So one against there as well, I think. Right, okay. So the Climate Change Annual Report is duly carried. Move on to item 7. The Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Regulation Housing to present the report. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Obviously, this is about the Market Arcade, PSPO. The purpose of the report is to ask Council to consider and agree the renewal of the Public Spaces Protection Order for the Market Arcade. The arcade is an important area within the city centre and has been subject to much improvement and regeneration over recent years. In 2020, Council considered a similar request as a response to antisocial behaviour in the arcade at night, where people damaged and defaced property. And they took and dealt drugs and other activities. The 2020 order included a provision to place gates at either end during the evening and night time. As the arcade is a right-of-way, an alternative route has been highlighted and consulted upon. Members of the public and businesses who responded to consultation expressed strong support. This single measure all but eliminated antisocial behaviour and allowed businesses to re-enter the area with increased confidence. So I hope everyone will get behind this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Cabinet Member. Is there a seconder? Leader, do you want to speak now or later? Later, okay. Oh, it's already been seconded. Right. Councillor Thomas.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Just want to say how sad it is that we have to take these steps to request Public Spaces Protection Order. But obviously, huge amount of commitment, time, thought, and not just financial not just financial commitment, but the energy and the imagination which has gone into developing, these really special and sometimes quite unique areas of our city. We need to protect them, so I just hope that everybody is able to support this, as we also recognise that other areas with these protection orders. It's sad, but it's a mark of the time, but we're doing our best to protect the development of the city for the enjoyment of our residents.
Anyone else wants to speak on this item? Leader, you wanted to make a comment on?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I'm really very proud indeed to be the person to second this proposal today. And for any elected members, and I'm sure you will have all done so, if you've been to see the Market Arcade and the fantastic regeneration project that's been undertaken, we were able to do that as an authority because the Public Space Protection Order actually facilitated that. So it's facilitated the protection of that space and the preservation of it. And I am happy to support this, and I hope that colleagues will consider continuing with this in that very special space in our city centre. Thank you.
Thank you. Would all councillors cast their vote, please? All those in favour? All those against? Right. Okay. No, none against. Any abstentions? Right. The Market Arcade Public Spaces Protection Order report is duly carried. Right. We move on to item 8. Maze Glass Public Spaces Protection Order again. The Cabinet Member for Strategic Planning, Regulation and Housing to present this report. Councillor Clark.
Thank you again, Presiding Member. The purpose of this report is to ask Council to consider and agree the reinstatement of the Public Spaces Protection Order for the area within Maze Glass. In 2018, Council considered a similar request as a response to antisocial behaviour from residents and businesses within the area. The order included restricting access to a public path behind the shops on Cardiff Road. As the pathway is right of way, an alternative route has been highlighted and consulted upon. Members of the public and businesses who responded to consultation expressed strong support. The high level of response to this consultation is pleasing. The public indicated there remained ASB problems in the area, and these additional controls will help tackle them. The measures also include control of the consumption of alcohol, behaviour that causes harassment, alarm or distress, and the use of substances. It is noted many respondents to the consultation expressed a wish for the area of the PSPO to be extended. Officers plan to explore this option without delay and may consider an extension in the upcoming months. Again, I hope you'll all get behind this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Is there a second to the programme? Do you wish to speak now or later? At the end, right, okay. Is there anybody else wants to speak on this? Councillor Jenkins? Councillor.
There we go. Thank you, President.
It's not Jenkins, it's Perkins. I do apologise.
I'll forgive you. Thank you, Presiding Member. I fully and wholeheartedly support the reinstatement of the Maze Glass PSPO. I understand that in the report, the area brought forward is limited, and in the recent consultation, one that saw many more responses to the one used to implement the order initially, a large percentage of respondents requested to have the PSPO cover all of Maze Glass, and now a further consultation is to be required to reinforce the request. So the reinstatement of the limited area is just the start, and I and my fellow councillors will continue the work with all relevant agencies to get the area enlarged for the benefit of our residents and those who work in the area. Please support. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Howells.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I'm delighted to see the Council taking a proactive step in terms of dealing with antisocial behaviour in the Maze Glass ward, which I'm sure all members will note when they drive past the area is a significant cause of concern. I'd welcome the Council also looking at similar measures for the Pomfane area, which we discussed with the police superintendent today, and I'm sure measures like this, proactively put in by officers of the Council, will really help us deal with antisocial behaviour in problem areas of our communities. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Petroni.
Thank you, Presiding Member. I do also support the PSPO, and I want to commend the great work my colleagues, Councillor Marshall, Councillor Perkins, but also Jane Bryant MS, for working as a collective team with our partners, with the police, with Newport City Homes, to address the real concerns our residents have, law-abiding citizens with their lives blighted by those who have disregard to their lives and the lives of their neighbours. So I wholeheartedly support this, and I would support any other move in any other ward that makes law-abiding citizens protected.
Thank you. I haven't got anybody else to speak. Councillor Marshall.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Colleagues, today I second the motion, basically to reinstate the Maysglass Public Spaces Protection Order. As members are aware, it gives tools in order to address some of the issues that Maysglass does have, and it's one of the things that the police, when talking to us, said that would be really beneficial to have. So it's prime that we have that as part of our tools to support them, to support the council wardens in order to address some of the issues. So members are aware it does have a look at the controlling of alcohol consumption, preventing distressing behaviour and addressing intoxicating substances, and deterring some of the antisocial activities at the back of the Maysglass shops, which members are probably aware of, as already stipulated. It was pleasing within the extensive consultation has shown overwhelming community support for these measures. It was 20 last time, 112 this time, and a huge percentage showcasing that it's still an issue within the local area. And like my colleague, I'd like to thank those who did support us. That did include the police who came door knocking with us to make people aware about the survey. The police, Newport City Homes, the elected members of Parliament and the Senate, my fellow councillors. Though I must note, obviously within this area we look forward to the expansion when that comes, and work with officers and the police, etc., and organisations, to work alongside that. But in conclusion, renewing this is important for Maysglass. It is a step closer towards making the area safer and to give the tools to those that require them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, do you want to... Sorry? Oh, Councillor Morris. You've got to be quicker than this, Mr Morris.
I will try to. Story of my life. I know both these areas very well, Pontfaen and Maysglass, and I know both these lots of kids very well, strangely enough. And they both have something in common. There is absolutely nothing in the area that those kids are welcome to participate in. That's not sticking up for them. It's horrendous for the people that live there. I see the bullying that goes on. I see the intimidation. And it's exactly the same at Pontfaen as it is at Maysglass shops. The kids on motorbikes that have suicidal tendencies. They've got no respect. They've got no regard. Years ago, we used to send a youth team in. And we would try to engage with them. And we would try to take them off the streets and try to get them something to do and somewhere to go. Do we not do that anymore? Do we not have those teams? Are we trying to engage with them? Because when we solve this, it's going to go somewhere else and there will be other areas. Antisocial behaviour is a nightmare for people living on their own and who can't cope with it. We've got to have a grip of it, and we've got to try and put something in place to get these kids off the street, to stop them causing the problems that they're causing. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Clark, do you want to make comment?
Yeah, just literally a minute, presiding member. I know in the area there is a youth community group in Maysglass which deals with this, and I think I think it's just generally acknowledged that the residents need this. It's something which I'm hoping will fully back. And to Councillor Howard's point, absolutely. We can speak to the officers concerned. So I think if it's necessary, it's necessary. So thank you.
Right, thank you very much. Sorry, I thought you wanted to say that. Right, would all councillors please cast their votes? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? The Maysglass Public Space Protection Order report is duly carried. I move on to item 9 now. The South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee Scrutiny Arrangements. It's a mouthful. The leader will present this report, please.
Thank you, Presiding Member. The last report on our agenda today, colleagues, is the proposal for the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee to be appointed to discharge the authority's scrutiny functions in relation to the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. If I may, Presiding Member, at this point, invite the monitoring officer to provide members with an overview of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. As the Leader has said, we're seeking approval for the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the Cardiff Capital Region to be appointed as the Overview and Scrutiny Committee for the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee. Members may be aware that the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee was established in April 2021. It's made up of the leaders of the 10 constituent local authorities. The CJC has responsibility for strategic development planning, regional transport planning and promoting the economic well-being of the South East Wales area. The South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee is currently in its transitional phase, building up a governance structure in preparation for becoming fully active in April 2024, when it's intended that it will take over the functions of the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal Joint Committee. Part of the CJC's governance structures need to be made to ensure that there are appropriate overview and scrutiny arrangements in place to provide effective scrutiny of the functions and to ensure that they're discharged correctly. The report sets out the proposal that each of the 10 LAs agree to appoint the existing Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which was appointed by the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal and is administered by RCT County Borough Council. Each of the 10 local authorities need to agree the appointment of the committee, which will be set up under separate terms of reference, and these terms of reference are to be agreed by each of the 10 authorities. Members will see Appendix 2, the terms of reference. The existing Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee has confirmed its agreement to take this on, as the letter at Appendix 1 demonstrates, and the 10 LAs are now being asked to approve the recommendations. This is with the proviso that the terms of reference be reviewed by the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committee themselves to ensure that the scrutiny arrangements are robust, transparent and accountable. Any subsequent changes to the terms of reference will need to be referred back and approved by each of the 10 councils. And council is also to note that the cost of the committee will be covered under the existing arrangements that are already in place. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Liz. Is there a seconder? Do you want to speak now or later? You don't need to speak. Okay. Right. Any other? No. Right. Will all councillors please cast their votes? All those in favour? All those against? Any abstentions? Right. The South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee Scrutiny Arrangement report is duly carried. Right, we move on to item 10. We now move to open questions to the Leader of the Council. Questions will be asked in the ballot list order sent out earlier today. Before we start, does the Leader have any announcements to make?
Thank you, Presiding Member. I might have one or two.
Right.
So, firstly, Presiding Member, on behalf of elected members and the City Council, I'd like to offer my condolences to our families here in Newport who've been affected by the terrible flooding events in Libya. We know that we have got families in the city who've been affected by this, and our sympathies go out to them all. Recently, Presiding Member, I had the opportunity to go along to the Wilkinson Distribution Centre to meet members of the workforce there who sadly have been facing redundancy. What was really positive about that opportunity was the feedback from workers at the jobs fair on the services and the support that the City Council were offering to them in terms of opportunities to retrain, develop their skills and move forward into new employment. I think what stood out for me from that experience was really the positive spirit with which the workforce were taking this very, very sad news, but also the support that was being given from other employers across the whole of the region. So it was really positive to see some of those people who were present there actually being offered employment with other similar retailers across the region. That really was quite positive. And I do thank our officers who work on work and skills for the amazing support that they show people, because we are going through very difficult times at the moment, and I think we really should value the work that they do. And of course, presiding member, another important aspect of the support that many of the workforce are experiencing there, and likewise the workforce at Nexperia and Tata Steel, is the support that they're receiving from their trade unions. And I have to say that the support at Wilkinson's from GMB and USDOR was absolutely outstanding. And I think that really brings home to us an important point, presiding member. Everyone can see that we are experiencing an economic transition. But this Labour administration will do everything that it can to ensure that the people of Newport who are affected by this experience a just transition. That is our commitment to the workforce across Newport. I'd also like to say how wonderful it was to see so many people supporting the second Pride in the Port weekend at the start of this month. Now, the whole weekend, from the parade and festival to the fringe events, was a wonderful celebration of our LGBTQIA+ community. I'd particularly like to highlight the fantastic service that was put on at our cathedral. How fortunate are we within our city, not only to have this amazing place of worship, but to have such an inclusive faith community. At that service, which was attended by many members present today, the patrons of Pride in the Port were also in attendance. Now, both patrons of Pride in the Port have campaigned endlessly for LGBT rights for many, many years. And I want to share with you the impact that that service had on one of the patrons who really was tearful at that experience. It was over 40 years since he'd been in a church or taken communion, and he felt so included that he felt able to participate in that important ritual at that time. That makes me so proud of our city, presiding member, and so proud of our faith communities here as well. So what a fantastic experience. Now, during the events, the events on the day of Pride, I think we were blown away really by the level of support, the level of engagement, and the number of people who came out onto our streets. But what's important, I think, is that we're able to have these events in our city, and that our citizens are able to come along and just be their authentic selves. Just be there, be accepted, and be who they are. Inclusivity and acceptance are vital aspects of our city's character, where everyone feels welcomed and embraced for who they are. It shows why events like this matter. And I'm already looking forward to next year's celebrations. And I'd also like to wish the organising committee the very best of luck as finalists in the competition to secure UK Pride. So congratulations to them on meeting the final, and I'd like to wish them the best of luck on behalf of the City Council. Now, speaking of celebrations, it's just over 2 weeks to go until the Newport Food Festival returns to the city centre. And I'm delighted to say that this year's event will be bigger than ever, taking place over 3 days instead of 1. Now, the Food Festival has become established as one of the highlights of Newport's events calendar, and we're sure that this year's programme will prove popular with residents, visitors and businesses alike. The festival kicks off with a separate event on the evening of Friday the 13th at the Mercure Hotel's NP20 Bar and Kitchen. The festival's patron chef, Howell Jones, will be taking diners on a culinary exploration of fabulous Welsh, Georgian and German cuisine to celebrate Newport's links with our twin cities of Kutaisi and Heidenheim. Tickets for the supper are on sale and can be booked through the Food Festival website. On Saturday, we'll see a traditional food market set up in the city centre with street entertainment, chef demonstrations in the market, a vegan and vegetarian village in John Foss Square, and the return of the final of the Teen Chef competition. And finally, on the Sunday, there'll be a new event for the festival with live music and street food vendors taking over High Street. We've worked closely with local bars, Le Pub, McCann's and Madame Jojo to put together a fabulous lineup of entertainment for the Sunday event, which we are sure is going to be a popular addition to the festival programme. And Mr. Presiding Member, I've mentioned two major events that we help to support or we might put on as a City Council. It should not be underestimated the impact that these have on our local economy and the benefits that this brings, not just to our local businesses, but to their supply chains as well. So I'd encourage all colleagues to support the Food Festival event. Now, we've already mentioned today our Market Arcade, and we've talked about how we need to protect and preserve it. And I'm really pleased to say that the final set of restoration works at the Newport Market Arcade are now underway. The restoration project, which began in 2018, has seen the Council transform the once declining arcade into a vibrant and viable commercial attraction within our city centre. This phase of the work will see internal refurbishments to several units of the arcade, as well as the remaining external refurbishments. Presiding Member, the transformation of Market Arcade, our oldest surviving arcade and the second oldest in Wales, wouldn't have been possible without the generous support of the National Lottery Heritage Fund, CADW, and of course our own Welsh Government's Transforming Towns Fund. Plaques have been installed at either end of the arcade, and the ongoing support allows us to run activities and events in our pop-up Heritage Centre in Unit 14, and to manage and maintain the site in future years. And I know that during the summer, when the Minister for Local Government and Finance visited the city, she was delighted to come along with myself, the Chief Executive and other senior officers, and actually see for herself the wonderful work that had been going on there. So once again, thanks to Welsh Government for their support with that. Now, we've also just announced further good news for our businesses and economy with a new business grant scheme. And for several years, as you'll be aware, we've given out small and medium-sized grants across the city to help with start-up and other costs. And this will continue. However, thanks to funding from the UK Government's Shared Prosperity Fund, we're now able to offer grants of between £25,000 and £75,000 towards capital investment. And we know our businesses have faced many challenges in recent years, and we want to be able to continue to offer support wherever and however we can. So I'd encourage all potential applicants to get in touch with our business support team, who can talk them through the process and assess their eligibility. Delighted to say that I was pleased to be present at the recent unveiling of a new, vibrant graffiti wall in Glebelands Park. The dedicated space gives artists a place to display their works whilst bringing a splash of colour to the area, and is already proving popular. The designation of a legal graffiti space aims to encourage innovation and creativity in a safe environment while reducing the levels of graffiti in unauthorised areas. Huge thank you to my colleagues, the councillors for St Julian's, and, of course, Councillor Forsey for her work on this. And on behalf of the Council, thanks to the South Wales Trunk Road Agency for helping us bring this project to life. Now, as a Council, we've recently published our new digital strategy, and that defines the digital aspirations for the city over the next 5 years. And it sets out how the Council will use technology to transform the delivery of its services. Now, this strategy is based around 4 key themes: digital transformation, digital skills and inclusion, data and collaboration, and digital infrastructure and connectivity. And it will support and improve the well-being of our residents and employees, as well as enabling businesses to thrive in the city. Over the past few years, we've seen some of the biggest changes in society and how people interact with our public services. It's also highlighted inequalities in our communities regarding access to digital technology and the skills to use it effectively. Our new strategy aims to address these issues and support the delivery of our objectives set out in the corporate plan. And one of the fantastic new initiatives that has been implemented as part of this is a new city centre hub which showcases the latest in assistive technology. And I was very pleased to visit the hub with a Cabinet member to really look at the support that can be made available to our citizens. I'd like to share with you, Presiding Member and colleagues in the Council, my absolute delight that the Newport City Dogs Home has won gold in 2 categories in the 2023 RSPCA Cymru Paw Print Awards for their work with stray dogs. It's the 12th year that the team has been recognised with a gold award in the stray dog category for their hard work looking after the dogs in their care. They also won a 2nd gold award for their work with kennelling stray dogs. And I'm sure that you will all join me in congratulating the team for the wonderful work that they are doing. Finally, a reminder that the Tigers, one of the British Army's leading parachute display teams, will be making a spectacular landing in Newport this Saturday. They'll be dropping into Rodney Parade just before kick-off for the Dragons versus Ospreys match. Now, they were due to descend on Newport as part of the Wales National Armed Forces Day celebrations, but as you'll all recall, unfortunately the conditions weren't in favour. So let's all keep our fingers crossed for this weekend. The team always puts on an impressive show and it promises to be a real spectacle. And it's also a great opportunity to find out more about careers with the Army. So, colleagues, why don't you get behind the Dragons, make sure you've got your match tickets, and go along and welcome the Tigers to Newport. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. We now move to open questions to the Leader of the Council. Questions will be in a ballot list form or assented, but before we start, obviously, the Leader has made her announcements. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Presiding Member. When I was Leader of the Council, admittedly a long time ago now, we ensured 20-mile-an-hour zones were installed outside schools and accident black spots, a pragmatic approach which was understood by most. The recent 20-mile-an-hour fiasco has caused anger, confusion, and will have a detrimental effect on the lives of so many Newport citizens, from taxi drivers to social workers and delivery drivers. Main roads like Risca Road, we are told, don't even meet the strict criteria to amend. As of 4 o'clock yesterday afternoon, over 426,000 people had signed a Senedd petition calling for the Welsh Labour government to remove the 20-mile-an-hour blanket speed limit. In fact, there was an article in the press which broke down these figures when the petition was around 170,000 people, which showed even then around 20,000 people from Newport had signed. And that's a Conservative estimate. Now it would be a staggering 40,000 people. And to be fair, there is another petition calling for the Welsh Government to keep the excellent 20-mile-an-hour law, which had 2,718 signatures at the same time in total. Apart from costing the Welsh economy up to £9 billion, the Welsh Government continued to ignore the Welsh public on this matter. The Deputy Minister for Climate Change recently contained petitions were not representative of the wider public. And the First Minister had a single-word answer to say no. So will you listen to the residents of Newport? Will you carry out a review to see how effective this policy has been in a few months' time, and at least ensure the signage is consistent? Thank you, Presiding Member.
Leader to respond.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Evans, for your question. Absolutely right. You were the leader a long time ago. So let's think about what is going on in contemporary society here today, shall we? Now, you mentioned chaos, and I don't know if anyone in the chamber today has watched the fantastic Laura Koonsberg documentary series on BBC Two, but that really does set out the state of chaos in this country, and that's the state of chaos given to us by consecutive Conservative governments. So, if we're talking chaos, we know where that really lies. Moving then to this, the 20-mile-an-hour limit. As everyone will be aware, that globally, in 2020, 120 countries signed a declaration that reducing speed limits to 20 miles an hour improves road safety, and they agreed to mandate a maximum road travel speed of 30 kilometres an hour in areas where vulnerable road users and vehicles mix in frequent and planned manners. The point that I'm making by illustrating that 120 countries signed this declaration is that this speed limit is not something that's unique to the Welsh context. Here in the UK, 28 million people, more than 1 in 3 of the population, now live in local authorities which accept 20 miles an hour as the right speed limit where people live, work and play. Scotland has committed to making 20 miles an hour the norm across all councils by 2025. In England, many communities already have 20 miles an hour, and this includes places like Norwich, Tunbridge, Chichester and many others. Meanwhile, in Europe, Spain, Netherlands, Germany, Austria, Finland and Sweden all use 30 kilometres an hour extensively in urban and built-up areas. So actually, this is not unique to Wales at all. What's particularly interesting about the response to this policy is the misinformation that we're starting to see here in Wales, just across the board. And I don't know if anybody's read the Martin Shipton column in Nation Cymru, but it was a really interesting and informative column which set out an overview of the way that the Welsh Conservatives have actually managed this information around this. Now, the fact remains that the first Senedd motion in favour of 20 miles an hour was tabled by a Welsh Conservative MS, and it had cross-party support. That is a fact. We've seen some appalling false allegations around this, and some disinformation from the leader of the Welsh Conservatives that is truly shocking. There is no such thing as a blanket 20-mile-an-hour limit. As the leader of Newport City Council, I will certainly ensure, as with all of our policies, that we continue to review this on a regular basis and we take into account any proposed requests for amendments or exceptions to the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. Thank you, Presiding Member.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Presiding Member. I'm asking this question in the name of transparency. I'm not making any accusations. In the light of the recent appointment of the city centre manager, are you satisfied that all proper policies and procedures were followed? And what message did this send out about our commitment to the city centre, to the Newport public and the Newport business community?
Leader.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Morris, for your question. As you will be fully aware, as all the members in this chamber are also aware, there is no councillor involvement in the appointment of officers below the head of service level. So I suggest you redirect your question to the head of paid service or the monitoring officer, who I'm sure would be happy to respond.
Not for council, you've got to be careful what you're saying about that.
Yeah, happy to also defer to the monitoring officer in terms of legal advice, but I'm not prepared, as head of paid service, to discuss any specific or individual appointments in full council. If members do have any further queries, they're to be directed to officers in private. Thank you.
Only to add to that, we can't discuss officers because they can be identified and there are data protection issues, so we can't discuss this any further. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, officers. I've got Councillor Whitehead.
Thank you, Presiding Member. My question, I'm surprised actually we got a third in. My question is relative to one I've kind of asked before, and that is on contacting services such as Home Options. Sometimes they're not even getting afforded the a reply, which I think is quite rude. Members at City Services, again, is hit and miss. And I have to say, with the housing crisis we have at the moment, which is absolutely desperate out there, it's a cutthroat world at the moment, and I appreciate that. For me, it's then having to go back to residents who are in desperate situations and saying, I haven't been responded to. And again, and it's not an accusatory finger, and I know that they're probably inundated, but even like a reply to just say, look, we are inundated and we're processing many queries such as yours, and we'll get back to you, because the reality is, I then got to make a phone call to say, look, what's happening, Kevin? Well, I haven't had a reply, I haven't had a response. I know Home Options is inundated, the website in particular, and people are very desperate. I've had people in tears, no doubt other councillors have, and I know it's a very challenging area currently, but I just think sometimes it's like having a reply, I'm away at the moment. But sometimes it can be very frustrating, I have to say that, albeit some of the officers in response has been very good in the past. It's just something seems to be in the water. Thank you, Leader.
Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Whitehead. I think you raise an important issue there that affects us all, but more importantly, it affects our residents. And we recognise the importance of effective communication across the whole of the council. This certainly is something that we're committed to. I don't think there's an elected member in this chamber or online today who hasn't been frustrated with our web-based systems. I think we've all experienced those frustrations. What I'm really pleased to say is there is investment and effort going into improving our web and web access. Now, not only will this improve our outward-facing access for our residents, but it should also improve access for elected members as well. And you're absolutely right. It is important that we are able to have this access and a prompt response. Now, the issue of some of the service areas that you mentioned today, sometimes there are specifics in relation to that. So certainly the level of demand that we know that Home Options team are facing at the moment does put extreme pressure on them, and it may indeed lead to delays in responses. But I'm pleased to say that actually under the guidance of the Cabinet member, the Home Options system is being reviewed, and we've got an excellent head of service there who is taking this through and really hoping to deliver improvements for those applicants. Because the other important point to note with regard to that is that we do recognise that we've got a housing system that's under intense pressure at this point in time. And so when people contact us, they need to be able to somehow get some sort of feedback on that contact. So that system is being reviewed. I'd be more than happy, Councillor Whitehead, to discuss with you or any of the other group leaders any specific issues that have occurred with regard to untimely responses or feedback from our service areas. We do know that our heads of service work hard with all of their officers to try and ensure that we provide a good service. But from myself, the leader and the chief executive from the very top of this organisation, if there are things that are not working effectively in terms of those communication systems, we're more than happy to sit down with you to go through specific examples and to look at where we can make further improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Bright.
Diolch. Council has today agreed the NCC representation on the Corporate Joint Committee Scrutiny Committee. As we move closer to the implementation of the South East Wales Corporate Joint Committee, can the Leader provide Council with an overview of the work of the CCR, City Deal and an update on progress, please?
Leader.
Thank you, Presiding Member, and thank you for your question, Councillor Bright. I think it's a really important question as well, because I'm really conscious, as the monitoring officer was actually when we went through the previous item, that there will be elected members in the chamber today that will be unfamiliar with the structures that we're talking about. But actually, they play an important role in what we do as a local authority, and they'll continue to play an important role as we go forwards. So for those colleagues who are familiar with this, I think I'll just give a little overview initially of the Cardiff Capital Region City Deal and how that works, and then talk about the Corporate Joint Committee. Because actually we've got a number of successes that are delivering positive outcomes for the people of Newport, and it's important to share that. So the Cardiff Capital Region embraces the 10 local authority areas covering South East Wales. Blaenau Gwent, Bridgend, Caerphilly, Cardiff, Merthyr Tydfil, Monmouthshire, Newport, Rhondda and Taff, Torfaen and the Vale of Glamorgan. Now across our area we've got a population of around 1.5 million, which equates to around about half the population of Wales. So we've got a concentration of people across that area. And what's really interesting about this is that it's a very diverse region, which has got 2 cities, Cardiff and Newport, a range of market towns, our industrial heartland of our South Wales valleys, rural communities and a coastal belt. So there is everything in our mix. Now in 2016, the £1.3 billion Cardiff Capital Region City Deal, which is funded by UK Government, Welsh Government and the 10 South East Wales local authorities, was established. Cardiff Capital Region has a number of priority cluster areas that it's looking to invest in and develop and take forwards. And colleagues in Newport may be familiar with more than one of these. So these areas are the compound semiconductor cluster, fintech, cybersecurity and analytics, the creative economy, medtech, transport and energy and environment. And within this, there's a number of key areas of focus, and they include skills through our Regional Skills Partnership Board, digital, sites and property, and innovation. And I'd just like to give you a taste of some of the investments that we've made across the region. £735 million of the fund is delivering tangible developments within the South East Wales Metro. The £495 million wider investment fund sits with CCR and is being invested across the region in a whole range of projects, and is actually on track to add 179 million GVA to the region's economy every year. £44 million of that is through the CS Foundry project here in Newport. What a difference that is making to the region. There's some game-changing funds that have been established through this, including a Strategic Premises Fund, Housing Viability Gap Fund, Local Wealth Building Challenge Fund, and an Innovation Fund as well. CCR owns 2 companies limited by shares alongside the whole portfolio of investments, and has recently invested in a 500-acre former coal-fired power station, which is in the early stages of comprehensive redevelopment for domestic clean energy generation here in our South East Wales area. It's been successful in securing 2 UKRI Strength in Places Fund awards, and again of particular relevance to us here in Newport because this has helped enhance and develop the compound semiconductor sector here in Newport. Now, we've talked today about the CJC, and I think it's important to note that Wales doesn't have primary legislative powers to create combined authorities. However, through a piece of work undertaken by Welsh Government, the framework for regional investment in Wales has resulted in legislation to create corporate joint committees. These new corporate legal entities build around the 4 regions of Wales, and they mirror the City and Growth deal. Now, they, as we've already mentioned, they come into existence. And unlike the CCR, which is a voluntary undertaking, the corporate joint committees are a statutory requirement. They provide a range of powers to regional bodies, putting them on par with other public bodies. And the transition from CCR to the CJC, which we've talked about this evening, will see the CCR become a corporate legal entity public body with a number of corporate duties, which alongside the statutory requirement for regional land use, transport planning and economic wellbeing duty. And what I'm really proud to say to you, presiding member, and to Councillor Bright this evening, is that emerging findings from the UK Competitiveness Index indicate an increase in competitiveness in the region as a whole, and within this, there is also emerging evidence of an increase in competitiveness for Newport. And this is the impact of 10 local authorities coming together to work together for the benefit of the region. Thank you, presiding member.
Thank you, Leader. The 15 minutes clearly are up. Well,
Sorry, presiding member, this can't continue. We sacrificed our supplementary questions on the basis that more people have opportunity to ask questions. This has been an absolute farce. We can't have loaded Labour questions.
Listen, well, if you want to, it went through scrutiny, and that was the decision of scrutiny, and it came back to this council, and you all agreed it. Now, you lot have been chatting all the way through there. I just saw it, not you, Bill, but all I'm saying, they've been chatting all the way through that, so give a bit of respect when someone's on their feet and they're talking. Right, we move on to questions to Cabinet members now. There are four written questions to Cabinet members. Question 1, Councillor James Clark, Cabinet Member, Strategic Planning, Regulation Housing. Councillor Debbie Jenkins, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Right. The corporate plan aims to make Newport a fairer, safer and thriving city. As regulation is part of your portfolio, can you update Council on what the Public Protection team is doing to achieve these strategic goals?
Councillor Clark, can you respond to it?
Thank you, presiding member, and thank you, Councillor, for the question. I think it's a key question. I really do. Our public protection team carry out a wide range of activities in different areas. So I'd like to provide some detail on recent activities on each of these areas to illustrate the splendid work delivered by our council officers. Trading standards. Investigations related to counterfeit goods and illegal dog breeding are ongoing. The combined fraud value is in excess of £5 million. During a recent illegal tobacco enforcement operation, officers carried out surveillance on illegal tobacco shops, leading to seizures and 4 arrests. Officers closed five shops using ASB closure orders. Illegal disposable vaping devices are prevalent. 3,370 illegal disposable vapes have been seized, and a number of prosecutions are underway in relation to illegal vapes and vapes sold to underage people. Several investigations into activities of rogue and internet traders are at various stages of completion. Environmental health. This section continues to support safe events, delivers food controls. Businesses are cutting corners and using unsafe equipment, for example, using illegal converted kitchen gas appliances to LPG, causing risk of explosion. More notices have been served in the last year than in the last 4 years. A number of food hygiene improvement notices, prohibition notices and food seizures and detention and destruction actions have been taken, as well as prosecutions. Licensing. This section continues to monitor licensed businesses. Action has been taken relating to pubs and nightclubs breaching their conditions. Checks at the taxi trade continue. Examples of incidents that have happened will be that one taxi driver who was investigated by the team found to be lying about a speeding offence. That driver received a suspended sentence and a fine. 2 taxi drivers had refused to allow guide dogs into their cars. These drivers have had their licences suspended pending retraining. Community safety. The community safety team are active in the city centre and deal with noise nuisance and health and safety issues. There have also been incidents of fly tipping, where in some of these incidents a community protection warning has been issued. So finally, I'd like to finish by acknowledging all the hard work and dedication of some of these unsung heroes and the team involved in this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Councillor Jenkins, do you have any supplementary question? Right. We move on. Question 2, Councillor Petroni, Cabinet Member, Organisational Transformation. Councillor Emerson, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you. Could the Cabinet Member outline how the new digital strategy supports our goal in becoming a data city?
Thank you, Councillor, and thank you for a very important question. This city is an ambitious city. This is an ambitious Labour group. And the key for this city's growth, as the leaders highlighted throughout this meeting, is working with our partners in a collaborative process. And data, although it sounds boring, and in many instances it is, I'm a self-confessed geek, is critical for driving efficiency and effectiveness of our services, to make us a fit 21st century council to meet the demands of the citizens in front of us. And the data city aspiration in the Labour manifesto is a key objective in that goal. And it's not just what the council holds, the data that could be better utilised, but it's what our partners hold also in the private sector. So working with the National Technology Institute is a key aspect of our strategic goal. But let me be clear, this is about utilising AI. This is about utilising robotic automated processes. This is about driving growth in this city. We want to be the gold standard, not only in Wales, but in the UK, for local government utilising data for the betterment of its citizens. And I thank you for that question, Councillor.
Councillor Cohen, do you have a supplementary question? Thank you. Question 3, Councillor Yvonne Forsey, Cabinet Member, Climate Change and Biodiversity. Councillor Hussain, your question to the Cabinet Member, please.
Thank you. I'd like to ask, as implementation of 3 weekly refuse collections continues, can the Cabinet Member give an update of Phase 1 of the move to 3 weekly residual waste collections and outline progress towards Phase 2 of the move and 3 weekly collections?
Could you please respond?
Thank you very much, Presiding Member, and thank you, Councillor Hussain. Phase 1 of the 3 weekly collections rollout started in June of this year and included approximately 11,500 properties. The waste team have been monitoring collections over the last few months, and the results so far are a decrease in 15% in the amount of residual waste collected from these properties, and if this is repeated across Newport as part of our wider rollout, an NCC will meet its 70% recycling target, which is the main aim of this change. Our waste engagement team are available to assist residents who might struggle with managing their waste. Since the rollout started, they have received 84 inquiries via the direct contact form and have completed another 91 proactive visits. This means that only 1.5% of the residents included in the rollout have required direct assistance to date. In terms of compliance with the no excess waste policy, to date the waste team have only issued 166 warning letters due to additional waste, only 7 getting to the next stage due to repeated behaviour. Considering that over the same period, more than 35,000 weekly collections have taken place, this represents a compliance of over 99%. Overall, these are excellent results and show that the new system is delivering the expected results and the residents are coping well with the changes. The waste team are getting ready for the second phase of the rollout that will bring 3 weekly collections to the vast majority of Newport residents. Further details will soon be available on the Council's website, social media channels, but the 3 weekly collections of non-recyclable waste are scheduled to start in the second part of October and the beginning of November. As garden waste collections stop during the winter months at the end of November, they will continue with the current frequency until then. Collections will take place every 3 weeks once they resume in March of next year. All residents will receive a letter and a leaflet by post in October informing them of the new changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Forsey. Councillor Hussain, have we got a supplementary question? Move on to question 4. Obviously, it was Councillor Jason Hughes, Cabinet Member Social Service, but obviously he's not here. So I'm suggesting, Councillor Harvey, that your question obviously is sent to Councillor Hughes, and then all members then will have an answer from that, if that's okay with you. Okay? Thank you very much. That concludes the business set out on the agenda. The date for the next council is Tuesday, the 28th of November. I declare the meeting closed.